What's going on, man? Hey, man, we have to have a conversation. And to be honest, I did y'all brothers a disservice by only having the first part of a longer conversation, man. And this is really a piggyback off of the video I made the other day. I don't think it was my last video. The video I made called "You'll Never Break Free Unless You Understand How the Game." You'll never break free unless you understand the trap. Right? You'll never break free unless you understand the trap. Like, I believe that was a good conversation, man, and I hope you grasp what I was saying. And in that video, and I'll leave a link because I'm not going to talk about it again, but in that video I was talking about how the matrix or the system is a closed loop. You know what I'm saying? And you really can't escape that loop unless you understand how it's made and what it's supposed to do. Like the slow trap or the slow prison that they teach us to build around ourselves. And what I was talking about in that video, like the only way to get out of it is at some point you have to either break one link of that chain, or you have to, break down one wall of that prison cell. And then I said, once you break that wall down, you'll be able to see the game for what it is, and you'll be exposed to a whole new reality. And we went through that whole conversation, man, and kind of talked about certain elements of that. But I'll tell you this, man, that's only one half of the conversation. And I believe the second half is far more important. The second half is far more important. Let me take my glasses off, man, because I need y'all to see my eyes when I say this. The second half is far more important, right? So let's talk about going from the point where you're exposed to reality, and now and I'll use these words, now you're leaving the matrix. Now you understand there's been a system that's composed of all these many elements that we just kind of been slowly fed, and now you understand, like, hey man, there's a whole new world that exists that I had no access to, right? Because I was asleep, right? I'm gonna tell you this, as far as like leaving the matrix, right? The first thing you have to do is reconnect with God. The very first thing you have to do is reconnect with God. And I say the very first thing you have to do is that. But to be honest, like, that's going to happen by default. It's not something that you got to say, okay, now let me remember. Like what the world is going to be doing by default, you're going to just naturally gravitate back to God. And the reason I say it is this, because you're going to understand. I'm going to say it like this. That's by far going to be the most scariest time in your life. That's going to be the most scariest time in your life. And I'm not talking about a fear as far as like imminent danger fear, but you're going to have a fear of not having, the fear is going to be not having that connection with source like you think you did. That's going to be the fear. So just by default, you're going to find that. And the reason I say that fear of not having God in that space like you think so, or that you think you had, is simply because you have to understand. I know y'all gonna disagree with this, man, but hear me out. You have to understand that when you're in this system, when you're in this matrix, we might be saying things like, we might be using the word God, we might be going to church and services, we might be reading the Bible and having certain ceremonies and practicing certain religions. But I'm gonna tell you, when you're in the matrix, when you're in the system is your God. The system is your God, meaning the institution you went and got your schooling from, the churches and the religion that you stick to, your political parties, all those things that make up your materialism, the things that you hold up high, your house, your crib, those things are your God. And I know you're saying, so no, that ain't true. But I'm gonna tell you, man, you can't even serve God and be in the system like everybody else. Like if you're moving like the masses of people, you're in the system. If you're moving like the masses of people, you're in the system. And I'm telling you, when you're in the system, you're really calling those things God. Not intentionally, but you're worshiping those gods. So the thing is, the reason I say the first thing you got to find is God is because for the first time in your life, you're gonna feel that you're actually in that void. You're gonna actually understand. You're gonna actually be aware that you're in that void. You've been in it the whole time. You've been in it the whole time. You've been in the choir. You've been living life, been a good person, a upstanding person. But you've been in that void the whole time. But you've been putting your faith on the system. You know what I'm saying? Your faith has been in the government protecting you. Right? That's why you're so caught up with politicians, because they're protecting you. They're going to make sure everything's okay. You're caught up in making sure, you're caught up with thinking your job, just because you got that job, you're guaranteed a paycheck. So instead of standing on God, you're really standing on Sears and Roebuck. You're really standing on Halliburton. You know what I'm saying? You're standing on that. It's like you don't think twice about on the 1st and the 15th that check being there. You stand on it, and it separates you from that true source. I know one thing we always talk about is like entrepreneurship. Like, I don't think you can be an entrepreneur and not really connect with that energy. Not saying you're the holiest, or not saying you're the most righteous, but I don't think, because there's nothing but you and that thing that created you that you have to lean on. Right? Not saying everybody should be an entrepreneur. That's not the conversation I'm having. But all I'm saying is, when you're in that system is your God. So the first thing you got to understand, the first thing you're going to do when you come out of that is you're going to be seeking that. I mean, you're going to be fiending for it. You might not be cutting your hair. You might not be shaving your beard. You might start separating yourself from people, because you're going to be craving that true source. And you're not going to stop until you get it. Because to be honest, to be living to be alive and not be connected to that source is what hell is. It's what hell is. And once you understand that system that you once believed in is no longer there, man, it's going to be a good feeling, because you're going to be awakened to something new in reality. But those first few moments, and those moments could be weeks, months, years, you're going to be searching for source. And the thing is, it's not always voluntary. It's not always a voluntary thing. Like, a lot of times, and to be honest, if you live life long enough and you go through a certain number of things and all this kind of stuff, at some point you just taking these leaps and getting closer to God will be voluntary, because you'll recognize the patterns. But a lot of times, man, we're forced into reality. It's like, and I'll just use the words like God is trying, or universe, whatever, is trying to put us out there to wake us up. But instead of us waking up, we'll run back to the system. In other words, like, you'll have all this faith in your job, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to be here for the next 100 years, and I'm operating, like, I'm confident because of my degrees or my job or whatever, the relationship or what. And something will happen, and it'll snatch that job, it'll snatch that relationship, it'll snatch that security that you thought was security away from you, and you'll find yourself in this void. That void is where God lives. So instead of you embracing that void and say, okay, you know what, I had faith in that system, or that person or that thing, but it disappointed me. Now I'm out here floating in the abyss by myself. Instead of you floating in that abyss and say, let me find my own truth, let me find reality out here, you're running back to the system because it's your God. It's your security. When really God was saying, hey, brother, I put you in front of the mirror so you could see yourself, so you could see me. But instead of taking 5 minutes to kind of just sit there and observe, you had to run back to something. You had to run back to something. And one reason why I say that if you're in the system, it's your God, because you got to understand, and maybe this is not everybody, but you got to understand that the far majority of people that are in the system, like, they're still not fulfilled. Like, that's what I'm saying. When you're in that system, it's hard to find fulfillment. Maybe impossible, but it's very difficult to find fulfillment in that system, because that system is not God. And God is the only source of fulfillment. It may look different ways. It may look, or let me say it like this. God is the ultimate source of fulfillment, but working for and working towards that energy source is fulfillment. If that's not the path you're taking, I don't care what you label it. I don't care what tag you put on it, what religion, I don't care what you put on it. If what you're doing every single day is not getting you closer to source because you're putting that work in to connect with that, there's no fulfillment. I don't care how many zeros on it, brothers. I don't care how many zeros on it. There's no fulfillment in it, man. So this is the next thing I want to talk about, man. Get these gnats out here, brother. This is what I want to talk about, and this is the main thing. This right here is going to save y'all years of deliberation. It's going to save you years of trying to figure out what's going on. Why, it's going to take years off of your journey, brother. I promise it will. Like me and my brothers in a circle say all the time, it makes no sense for one of us to go through something and experience something and the rest of us have to experience it. Like when we go through something, we're supposed to be sharing that knowledge with our brothers so our brothers ain't got to go through them same pitfalls, right? So I'm going to tell you this. Once those walls crumble down, right? Once that chain is broken and you found your way back to God, right? I'm going to tell you this. At that moment right there, at that moment, you have all the power you need. You have all the access to all things that you need. You have a direct connection with source, right? Understand that. The only thing that's going to keep you away from winning, the only thing that's going to keep you away from pursuing that source through your purpose or finding that fulfillment is understanding like how the distractions are set up. I'll say it like that, right? Understanding how the distractions are set up. But what I mean by that is, like, you have to understand it's a bandwidth issue. It's a bandwidth issue. Meaning, kind of like when you get the internet in your house and you got so much bandwidth, right? You get home and you on the PlayStation and you got the computer over here and you FaceTiming your girl. Everything is tied into that internet source, right? But since you have a high bandwidth, you just good. You just trucking. You Call of Duty. You shooting emails. You FaceTiming your girl. Life is good. But mess around and have a party. Mess around and have a barbecue. And now you got 20 people over there. You got 30 people over there. And everybody's tied to the Wi-Fi. It's going to be some buffering going on, bro. It's going to be some Netflix sitting still on the TV, I promise you. Because your internet source only has so much bandwidth. It can only put so much out before it taps out. You have to understand, every single person only has so much bandwidth. It's only so much bandwidth, man. And once you understand that the reason you don't move forward or the reason you're buffering is because you're limited on how you can move, man, everything will make sense, man. Everything will make sense. There's a law called the law of equivalent exchange. Google it. The law of equivalent exchange. And what that law is saying is that like in order to gain something, you gotta give something up. It's speaking to bandwidth. Like if you're looking at your bandwidth and you call it 100%, in order to get more of this over here, like there's nothing else to pull from. In order to get more of this right here, this over here has to go down. It has to. It's the law of equivalent exchange. So either you got to give it away or you got to lose it in order for you to go up over here. Because it's only so much you can understand, right? So again, when you come out of this matrix, understand, man, that your bandwidth is going to still be fully occupied. It's just that now you're going to have more awareness of it. You're going to be able to manage it now, man. And it took me years to understand that I had to manage it. So when I say it's going to shave some years off of your journey, it took me some years to understand that I had to manage that. There is no just keep leveling up, and unlimited energy. Of course, our source is unlimited. That we pull from is unlimited. Of course, we are limitless. We can do everything. But the law of exchange says we only have this much bandwidth to play with, right? So you're gonna have to understand. So maybe now it makes sense when y'all brothers hear me say stuff like, I don't watch sports. You know what I'm saying? And I know that sounds crazy, because if I look at 7, 8, 9 years ago, if I'd heard somebody say you don't watch sports, I'd be like, what? Like, what grown masculine man doesn't watch sports? I don't watch sports. If it's not Shake Milton playing, if it's not Jalen Ford playing, I'm not watching it. And my brothers, if it's not them two brothers playing on TV, I'm not watching it. And the only way I'll catch some highlights if it's some spectacular play that happen to make my feed, if I'm posting something and scrolling for a few minutes and I see this super highlight play. I just don't watch sports. And I'm not saying everybody should stop watching sports, but everybody has to choose where they're going to decrease in bandwidth to get something else. Like, yeah, I would love to see Dak Prescott throw some touchdowns. I would love to see Shedeur Sanders do his thing. You know what I'm saying? I would love to see that, but I would much rather scratch my balls on a rooftop in Bangkok than see that. Something has to give. So you better gotta understand, man, like a lot of things you're entertaining, like a lot of times, and I'll be honest, sometimes I'll catch myself now. Like a lot of times I'm on social media, because I don't believe you can be in this digital space without being on social media, you know. But I'm in social media, man. And a lot of times I'll make posts and I'll get off that thing. That's why a lot of times I hate when I gotta catch up on responding to YouTube comments. Because after I post that video, I'm responding to comments for like an hour. After that, man, it's rare that I go back through there unless a feed comes through my phone and catches my attention. So when I do that, I'm not being real. Like, I want to respond to every single comment, man. But I can't give it that much bandwidth. Because if I'm giving it that much bandwidth, I can't be in the energetic state while I create the next video. While I'm tapping in the source, looking at something else. So you gotta look at your life and understand. You gotta manage your energy. You gotta manage where everything is going. And I'm gonna tell you, if you sit down, and I don't care if you write it on paper, but if you just think about it, on everything I know, man, you're gonna look and say, oh, you know what? I'm giving too much energy to the PlayStation, too much energy to the club. If you hit the club, I'm gonna say this, if you're going out, I don't care what city you're in, I don't care how lit it is, if you're going out every single weekend, every single Thursday, you're giving way too much bandwidth to entertainment, way too much. Even if you're quote unquote successful, you could be that much more successful if you decline over here. If you decline over here. And I'm gonna tell you this, man, when it comes to even some of our relationships, you have to be a man. You have to be a man that can love a woman and can love a woman hard. But the moment you put into that relationship puts you at an energetic deficit, you got to pull a cord, man. You have to jump ship. There's absolutely no reason why you should be in a relationship with a woman, loving, taking care of her, providing, protecting, and all these other things. But at the end of the day, you're in the negative when it comes to energy. If she isn't filling you up, brother, she's robbing the bank. So you might be trying to win over here, but you're like, hey, man, you know what? I'm trying to win. Soul, I'm trying to do X, Y, Z, man. I hear what you're saying, and I'm doing that. But I don't have enough horsepower when it comes to me starting my channel. I don't have enough horsepower when it comes down to me starting that barber shop or applying for that other job. I don't have the horsepower, soul. Because I got some on the back end, man, that's taking the bandwidth up. I got this girl, man, she want to go out to eat every 3 business days. She want to go to a party every weekend. And even though I would much rather put that energy into me moving forward, man, I got to have a girl, soul. Like, she loves me. She loves you, bro. And stay with her. But all you're saying is, and there's no right or wrong answer, but all you're saying is, that's more valuable than whatever you're trying to get to. That's all you're saying. You're saying, hey, whatever I have on my plate is more valuable. You're scared to trim back the fat, bro. You got to trim back the fat. You can't be scared to trim back the fat. But see, now that you understand that the source that we operate from is not, but it's not to something else for today, man. Now that you understand that the source that we operate from, not from, because the source that we're operating within, our energy, it's a pool. It's limited. It's limited. And again, I'll say it again. Even though the God we're plugging into is limitless, even though our potential is limitless, our fuel tank has a cap. Our engine only has so much horsepower. So you might be putting out 1,000 horsepower, but if the PlayStation or the strip club is getting 500, then everything else, you eating healthy, your business, it's going to suffer, man. It's going to suffer. So it's going to take you first auditing where your energy is going, auditing who's using your data. It's kind of like when you're at the house, right? It's kind of like when you're in the house and you got that Wi-Fi. At least mine was like that, man. And you can tap in and boom, I go to my cell phone and look at my Wi-Fi and I can look and see what every element pulling from it. TV upstairs is drawing this much bandwidth. Computer, laptop one is doing this, It's going to give me a whole inventory. I can see what's pulling from what. And if my TV is buffering, I go downstairs and close my laptop. You know what I'm saying? I'll say, dang, you know what? I left the PlayStation on from 2 days ago. I'll go cut the PlayStation off. And then I'll go back up there and watch Netflix and I'm going again. That's what you have to do to your life, man. Because you gotta say this. You gotta understand that looking at your life now, like a lot of times we think that if things aren't panning out, we aren't doing something right. It's like, man, I'm reading all the right books. I'm doing all the right things. I'm meditating. Everything is right, but I'm still not moving forward. A lot of times we think we're not doing something right. But again, a lot of times, man, we just don't have the juice. We just don't have the juice to move forward, man. So again, understand that everything is a bandwidth issue, brother. It's a bandwidth issue. You know what I'm saying? Law of equivalent exchange.